Welcome back to another episode of the Agency Freedom Podcast. We help insurance professionals move from captivity to freedom. Hello to everyone watching on our YouTube channel. For those listening on the traditional podcasting platforms, buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride. We have an OG member of the Knucklehead crew. You might remember we had them on about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago now. The crew originally gathered in an undisclosed location in an Airbnb in Phoenix, Arizona.
Right.
The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Beaux Pilgrim himself. How's it going, man?
Oh, man, really good. Pleasure to be here. Yeah, I missed that opportunity. I was sleeping in a tent out in the middle of the wilderness.
Was it the second year that you joined us? Because I remember.
Well, no, I'm talking about whenever you did the podcast with everybody. You did a Thanksgiving podcast, and I was
right.
kayaking.
That's right.
But
you
I
were
was
up in
there for
Montana, weren't you?
Yeah, yes. But I was there for the first and second house adventure.
Because I didn't know you back then. Fun Beaux Pilgrim story. We are at this Airbnb. We're in town for the Agency Success Conference that Better Agency used to put on before they turned that down. And it is like 6 a.m. The sun's barely up. I leave the house to go grab breakfast for the guys. And in the neighborhood, as I'm leaving in my truck, I see Beaux, who is looking like someone in an Iron Man TV commercial. And he just has this big smile on his face, and he's doing his, running thing. He's got his headphones on. He's shirtless. And I'm just like, who the heck is this guy? It's 6 a.m. And he's like, oh, yeah, I just got done with my run. I was like, how far did you run? He goes, oh, it was a short one. I only did 7 miles this morning. I'm just like, okay, I have no idea what this guy's about, but I like him. He is fierce. And ends up, he is fierce, and he's amazing, and he is here in this episode. So you all are in for a real treat. Mr. Beaux Pilgrim, sir, for those of the Freedom Jumper audience that don't have any idea who you are, well, shame on them. But give us the Beaux Pilgrim backstory. Family, how'd you get in the industry? Really,
Sure.
anything you want us to know about the context.
Sure, glad to. So for one point of clarity, I was not shirtless in Phoenix.
Are you
but
sure?
I
I thought
was.
you were
Yeah,
shirtless.
I'm sure. I think you may have just been imagining.
Glistening in sweat in the
Yeah, I probably
Arizona
was doing
sun.
that.
Maybe
Probably
there
doing
was
that and that.
it was JC, wasn't it? JC would totally
Exactly.
be shirtless.
Well, I don't know. Of course, with JC, it could have just been his bald head. Is maybe what you were thinking of. You just couldn't pass the glare. Well, I got into the insurance business because of family. Met my wife in college and got married. Father-in-law offered me a job in insurance. Started off in commercial lines. That was almost 30 years ago.
Wow.
Whenever I started, became agency owner a little bit over 15 years ago, and then on the agency we do personal lines, commercial lines in a very small town. My town's 4,000 people, very rural, and we do that thing here. It's a good business to be in. And a few years ago, I started doing VAs.
VAs. It is one of the most trending things in the last few years is labor. Where do we find talent? How does that happen? I'm going to put a pin in that one and come back and talk about IA Blueprint later on in the episode. Talk to me about getting into the business through your wife's family. That is, anytime there's the father-in-law, son-in-law relationship is a special one. And I say that as someone who now, after 13 years of marriage, I have a wonderful relationship with my father-in-law. It was not always so. For the first few years, I was the idiot who married his daughter. And it took me a long time to win his respect. And in all fairness to Chris, I was a full-blown bonehead back then. Didn't know when to keep my dang mouth shut and really didn't have much of an idea of how I was going to be successful in life. And Chris, imagine that, had some strong opinions on what should be happening with the guy who married his daughter. All that to say, anytime I get to talk to somebody who entered the industry in direct connection with their father-in-law, I always want to be like, okay, how did that go down? And talk to me about the the complicated thing that is working with someone whose daughter you married.
Yeah. Well, it certainly has. It certainly has been complicated at different times. At that time in my life, I didn't have a lot of direction as far as like what I wanted to do, with my life. And he offered me a job, and I'll be honest, I kind of took the job because I didn't really know what else to do at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten a lot more clarity, a lot more direction in my life since then. But it's so in the agency, it was my father-in-law. There was another brother-in-law already in place, and then shortly after that, my uh, his youngest child came to work in the agency. Also, his oldest child came to work into the agency. And during that time, I'd kind of moved into a management role inside the agency. So I was there, uh, kind of somewhat in a managerial role while my father-in-law's there and two of his kids in the agency. And so, yeah, I mean, sometimes I had to kind of just be very careful with how I present ideas. Because the in-laws, I'm sitting here, I'm the outlaw, and the others may, I mean, just they may not necessarily like it. But my father-in-law, he's passed now about 6 years ago, I think now, and I mean, he was a tremendous mentor to me and really helped me a lot, in business, but really I think more even in so just understanding just how to work with people, how to deal with people, and 'cause that's a whole lot of what we do. Really, is in the industry is how to communicate people, understand what the real need is, and then also communicating. You know, I've got the answer for that. For whatever the solution is that they really need, and I think he helped me a lot with that. But yeah, at times it was a little bit difficult.
The the social complications
Oh
of
yeah, many times I wanted to just go home and just be yeah, I'm out. Many times.
oh yeah, no, and I would imagine, I mean, that's even more of a wrinkle when your brother-in-law and your other brother-in-law are reporting to you, and your boss is their dad.
Yeah, right.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
but it's all good. It's all worked out good, and it's really just me and my sister-in-law, his oldest now, that are partners in the agency, and the other one is he's not working. The other one is not working in the agency anymore.
Hmm. Okay. So you took over as principal, you said about
Hmm.
15 years ago, right?
Right. Right.
Okay. What was the first thing that you changed when you were in charge? Was there something that you moved away from as soon as you had the final say?
No, man, honestly, the first thing was like all of a sudden I realized like, oh crap, the decisions I make are a lot more heavier now. And then I think it just all of a sudden like a light went off of how much I really didn't know still at that point. I mean, I did start looking at finances a little bit harder. I started trying to think of ways that we could grow the agency more. We were a small agency and not very sales minded at all at the time, very service oriented. And, I began looking at how we could do that. And, probably the first thing I started doing was really just trying to find markets. We were a non standard auto agency. We did a lot of low value dwellings. We did some commercial stuff too. And I realized quickly I didn't want to do that stuff, and I didn't want to be responsible for that stuff. And then trying to figure out how do I pivot in a really small rural area to get away from that. And that was a pretty good challenge. But
Hmm.
I guess the short answer to your question was I started changing the way we thought about what we needed to do in our agency, and to stop taking just what was in the neighborhood and start figuring out how do we reach the clients that we actually want.
Yeah, definitely. And that can be really hard when you're in
Hmm.
rural Louisiana,
Yeah, yeah.
because now remind me, Bo, are you in any other states or are you 100% Louisiana?
No, we're in Mississippi also, about 15% Mississippi, but most of it's Louisiana.
Okay. What do you do to align the realities of the marketplace with the agency that you want to be? Because you, I don't mean any disrespect to the great state of Louisiana.
Mm.
You're a little bit Cajun now and then. There's certain things that you say and do. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember he's from Louisiana. But I mean,
Yeah.
80%, 90% of Beau Pilgrim, you don't really act Louisiana.
Yeah.
You have a certain air about you that is a lot more than what would be stereotypical in Louisiana. A little bit slower pace of life, a little bit backwoods, a little bit. Oh, we'll get around to it whenever we get around to it. There's certain people that are really just blowing and going over there, but
Mhm.
the culture of Louisiana is a thing all to itself.
Yeah.
Texas is
Yeah.
right next door. I've been to
Mhm.
Louisiana many times. Been to Baton Rouge. Been to New Orleans.
Mhm.
You're up there in the northern part of the state, right? So it's not quite
Right.
the same. You're not
Right.
nearly in swampland where
Mhm.
you are. But I would imagine there's still quite a bit of challenge in feeling a little bit trapped or forced to have a certain kind of agency to cater to your marketplace rather than being
Mhm.
able to pick and choose and work with the kind of people you want to work with, which may not be exactly the middle of the bell curve.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean that's the reality is like I mean you will be when you're in a smaller town, you got less people, you got less businesses, so you got to make some sort of adjustments. Some of those adjustments are just okay, maybe I can't get exactly the clients I want, but maybe I can figure out exactly how to make sure that I'm working with them the right way and make
Yeah.
sure that I'm, charging appropriately for them. I set up the guidelines so that they understand this is how work is going to be with us. I'm not going to be like any of the other guys in the neighborhood and you tell me what you want. No, I'm going to tell you what you need. We're going to go that pathway and just, you set the standards so that they understand, educate them, and then, the ones that then buy in, great. The ones that don't, don't. But you really work on that sales strategy of how do you communicate to them so that you can make sure that you can help them maybe be the customer that you need them to be, even though they weren't in whatever the other relationship they were. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly the way you should do it, in my opinion. Now, shocker there, you and I agree on the process
How about
and the
that?
disqualification. It's like
Right, right.
this is who we are. Does
Hmm.
this align with how you want to do business? If yes, let's continue. If
Right.
no, thank you for your time. Go away.
Well, I'll
Buzz
even give them
off.
a number. I'll even give them a number to somebody else.
Man, you know what? Just as a quick aside, for the longest time, I felt like if someone called my office and I declined to do business with them,
Hmm.
then I owed them some sort of next step. And one of my
Hmm.
mentors a couple of years ago went, dude, it's 2020 something, 21, 22, whatever it was. It's like, there's a thing called Google. Nobody
Right,
cares
right.
about your recommendation. You don't
Yeah.
owe them a recommendation. If they're
No,
not a
you
good
don't.
fit for your office, wish them a good day and send them
Hmm.
on their way. Because if they want another recommendation, they can take their happy little thumbs over to google.com and figure out whatever they want to, or post on Facebook and say, who do you know who's an insurance agent? And 75 comments later, they'll have their pick of the litter.
Yeah.
So it's like, as of that day, we don't offer other options
Yeah.
anymore. It's like, all right, cool, bye.
Well, remember, now I'm in a small town. I don't want them going to Facebook and posting that because my name is going to show up on there a bunch of times and they're going to call me again.
That's a good point. Oh, man. No, that's when you have to camp out on that post and be like, hey, thank you for the
Yeah,
tags. I've already spoke with so and so and we're not able to help this time or something
right,
like that.
right,
Oh,
right.
man. Because you
Yeah,
would get
yeah.
tagged like 12
Oh
times
yeah,
because you're Beau freaking Pilgrim. That's what.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Definitely will be. So yeah, so we just headed off the pass and just go ahead and send them on where I know that they'll be happy. Well, I know they'll be happy.
Man, I I'm just imagining that smile on your face, the same smile that I saw the first time I tried to climb Flatiron, not the second time when I ended up almost needing a medevac chopper coming down. Folks, story time for just a second. I was going up Flatiron Peak in Phoenix, and this is what was it, 22 or was it 21?
I think it was
The
21.
I think it was 21
Yeah,
the
because
first time.
it was right after COVID, and we were all packed into that room, and like that
Hmm.
was the first time I was in a really a big setting again with a lot of people
I
post
remember.
COVID
Yeah.
without masks. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and Arizona's like mask. We
Yeah,
don't
yeah. Who
need
cares?
masks.
Yeah,
The whole
right,
state of Arizona's like screw the mask, chicken.
right.
No, but I mean, I ran out of gas because I was fat and out of shape at that point. Now I'm just slightly less fat and slightly less out of shape. Thank you. 3 years later, but freaking Beaux Pilgrim, man, I stopped at about the halfway point. You were already way ahead of me at that point. You summited with JC and whoever else the third person was. I forget who it
Lucas,
was.
yeah, Lucas
Right,
Jones.
Lucas Jones out of Kansas City. Yeah, but I was heading back down, and you freaking guys, you passed me on the way down, and you're like, as you jogged past me on the way down, and I'm sitting here going, "Good Lord, who is this dude?" Little did I know that you're like Mr. Fitness and that you appreciate endurance athletics. And it was like, this rock is 4,500 elevation, about a 3 mile big time grade to the top. And Bo Chrome just like la 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 la,
Yeah, it's just a nice Sunday
just
afternoon
a
walk.
casual jog, no big deal. Meanwhile, I'm
No
sitting here
big
going,
deal. It was a pretty day. It was a pretty
oh
hike.
man,
It was a
oh,
very
it was
pretty hike.
like 95 degrees in April. Thank you, Phoenix.
It
So,
wasn't that bad,
sorry.
was it? Was it that
Uh,
bad?
it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon at that point, man. So don't ever do anything physical with Beaux Pilgrim. He'll make you look bad. I don't. What are you like a decade older than me, dude? I just turned 40 like 2 weeks ago. You've got to be in your
I'm
late 40s, early
53.
50s, right?
Yeah, I'm 53.
Oh, you suck, man. 12, 13 years older than me and just leaving me in your dust. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you're not dominating fools in the endurance athletics circuit, what else do
Hmm.
you spend your time on? Because I know we've got
Oh,
IA
geez, a
Blueprint. We're
lot
going
of
to talk about
things.
that for a little bit. The
Yeah.
insurance stuff. When you're not at the office and you're spending time with your family, of course,
Yeah.
what are you doing in your free time or your unallocated
Gosh.
work time?
Several different things. I do like to be outside. I like to stay busy outside. We garden. I'm working on garden right now. That'll be the next several months that we'll be doing that. I keep bees and then just random things outside. I do like to do stuff outside.
Hmm.
Um, I really like hiking a lot. I like backpacking a lot. Not a lot of backpacking to be done in Louisiana, but I do take a couple of trips each year to do that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And then with family, it's usually here lately. It's been ball games. We had a couple ball games last night. Grandson had two ball games last night. Granddaughter had one last night. We spend a lot of time doing that sort of thing. Sometimes we go do things like creek riding on four wheelers or whatnot.
Hmm.
Just all kind of different random things outside. But yeah, family's a pretty massive part of it. Got three grandkids, and they say jump, I take off.
Oh yeah. Now everything you just said sounds like good old country stuff.
Hmm.
I'm born and raised in small town East Texas. I have spent many an afternoon on a four wheeler or romping around in the woods, getting into trouble with God knows what, a creek bed, and throwing rocks at trees and whatnot.
Yeah,
Everything that you just said is like, man, that sounds a lot like my childhood. That was a
fun
good old
stuff.
time. Now, country
Hmm.
folk are they're just wired differently, aren't we? I have lived
Oh
in
yeah.
the big city for gosh, almost 14 years,
Uh-huh.
and no, I'm still country through and through. When I get
Hmm.
away from the city, it's like, oh, two
Yeah,
lane
and this
farm to
feels
market
good.
road.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
right,
Oh, we're good now. Yeah, just kind of
right.
get that city out of my body.
Yeah,
No,
it's
it.
definitely a different feel to it, different pace to it. I mean, you can still be like really busy, really, you know, just full throttle, but it's just still just feels a lot different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, what else on the agency? What are you guys really, really good at? Before we start getting into the VA side of things,
The agency,
and yeah, but in agency life, Reed Insurance in what's the city in Louisiana?
Vidalia.
Vidalia. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah, kind of like the onion, right?
right. Yeah, that's Georgia though.
Yeah. No, so Vidalia, not Georgia, but
Right,
is it still named
right.
after the onion, or what's it named for?
It was by the founder whose name was Vidal
Mm,
back
like
in the a long.
Vidal.
Yeah. The only other
Okay.
thing that we're really known for is that well, we're across the river from Natchez, Mississippi, which is an old cotton town. got a lot of old plantation houses, stuff like that there, and antebellum homes. And then also there was a fellow named Jim Bowie who died in the Alamo, who
Yep.
also had a supposedly a fight here on the banks that's recorded. They got a little sign that says this is where it happened, and we have a festival every year to
Mm,
commemorate this guy sticking a knife in somebody else.
man. Yeah, Jim Bowie is one of Texas's cultural heroes.
Hmm.
I have one
Well,
of
here
his
too.
knives.
Yeah,
Oh
here
yeah,
too.
we can
Yeah,
share a love for Jim Bowie and Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone and all those frontiersmen.
right. Well, the things that Reed Insurance are good at is one of them is really we do really well with preferred home auto. We our market is the middle of the road though. I mean, it's the middle class core group of people that we've got a heck of a lot of those people in Louisiana, and we do really good at that. We don't really do the high value stuff. Just we've just not ever really ventured into that. And then on the commercial side, really it's a lot of contractors, and then also we do pretty good with public sector stuff.
Hmm,
We've got quite a few. Probably half of my commercial book, is public entities, and
really?
we like that. We feel comfortable in that, and got good markets for that, and just we like it.
How does that work in Louisiana, especially in rural Louisiana? I have actively stayed away from public sector stuff because at least in Texas, at least in the municipalities and the school districts and all of that, like their RFP process, excuse me, according to state guidelines, is so rigid. Like even
Mm-hmm.
after you win the account, you have to defend it aggressively every single cycle because every big firm from here to Timbuktu is going to take your lunch money
Mm-hmm.
every single renewal. Now, I would imagine with the parish system and parliamentary government that Louisiana has, it's probably a little bit different as far as like mandatory RFPs and whatnot, right?
No, it just depends on the size of the municipality, whether they do that or not. The bigger ones like Shreveport, Alexandria, Baton Rouge, probably Monroe, all those do that. But we've got a heck of a lot of just really small towns that have a sizable premium because of the nature of the business, and also the nature of just they all have really big property schedules
Yep.
um,
And auto
that
schedules
generate.
too, I would expect, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, that can generate a pretty good bit of revenue for the agent, and those are very relationship driven, especially if you've got some sort of presence that's somewhat local or regional. They really want to work with that, and so we've got quite a few that we work with, within a 50-mile radius. That's anything from small water districts to rec districts to municipalities and libraries that that you don't really have to do that. It's not that heavy defense every year. Yeah, you do still have to do. You do have to have a very close presence with them, and I go to some of their meetings and different things like that. So it's a little bit more hands-on like that, but it's not as much as so worried about defending it every year because of
Hmm.
that process that the bigger ones do. Like if an agency, it's kind of like they fall underneath that radar of the really big guys like Gallagher,
Mm-hmm.
that aren't really targeting them because they just honestly they're not necessarily big enough for them. But a smaller agency such as like myself, I mean, they're really big fish to me.
Mm-hmm. And you probably sell that hard. You talk to big national firm, you're just a
Mhm.
number, you're a very small account for them. You'll be working with some junior schmuck who graduated from LSU 2 years
Mhm.
ago. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I
oh
mean, but
yeah,
you eat those guys for a mid-morning snack.
oh yeah, yeah. Because I mean, the difference between like us and them renewal's going to come in, and there's uh, a lot of revenue on it, but they're going to get a copy of the policy in the mail with a cover letter. That's it. Whereas me, they can pick me up on the cell phone, text me. They're going to see me at their meetings and all the other kind of stuff.
Yep.
Uh, it's a very big, different, type of relationship there. And the small towns just really appreciate that.
They really do, man.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the north side of Dallas, so we're not like Dallas, which
Mm-hmm.
Dallas is very different than suburb and like quasi. Well, we're not rural, but we're definitely on the edge of suburbia,
Mm-hmm.
and that vibe. It happens very quickly once you get away from an urban center.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh
So,
yeah. Yeah.
love that, man. So,
Yeah.
pivoting to the IA blueprint,
Mm-hmm.
talk to me about how that happened. Like, it seems
Sure.
like every time you get on LinkedIn, somebody has a new virtual assistant program or
Yes.
VEs, VPs, whatever you call them,
Yeah.
remote talent. Let's just
Right.
stick with the generic name, remote
Yeah.
talent,
I
whether
like that.
they're somewhere else in the country or they're offshore somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
How in the world did you decide, you know what, I am going to start a remote talent firm?
Sure. So, I mean, like I said at the beginning, I've been in it for a long time. I've hired people, fired people, trained a lot of people. And then, I've spoken at quite a few different conferences about hiring strategies, training strategies, compensation strategies. We have, you know, we talk about that a lot in our group. And then it's also lots of conversations in a lot of the Facebook groups out there and stuff like that. And I really was shocked by how often I had business owners that had been in business for, however many years that just struggle so much with hiring talent, whether it's just finding them or knowing how to hire properly, how to train them, how to fire them, how to pay them. And just, I've been, surprised at how difficult it was. I'm in a small town and, when I've hired people, I've had hard times sometimes, but it was just because the pool was so small. And, I'm not going to find someone here that's already got commercial insurance experience, personal lines insurance experience. Probably, I may, but that's probably someone else's headache. The and I wound up hiring my first remote employee that was from the Philippines because I was looking for a service person and I was struggling to find somebody because I was looking. I get these resumes in, I pull them up on Facebook, and their cover image is F whatever or whatever other explicits or is them passed out somewhere or something ridiculous. And so I decided to try my first virtual employee, and just it really just worked well for us. I had a buddy ask me to help him find somebody, and I did, and he kind of talked me into starting it. And then I thought, well, I guess, this would probably help other agents. Because again, in my mind, I was kind of thinking about, because I'd come off a conference and was just thinking about, I had this talk about hiring people, kind of a process of how to hire somebody and then to train them. And then I was, it was on my mind because I had so many at the conference and then after talking to me more about it that obviously were struggling real hard. And I thought, well, I don't know, maybe I can help some of these guys out by me taking care of this part for them and then just kind of coaching them through, hey, this is how you set up processes in your agency so that you can employ. So you don't just get the body and then you don't know what to do with them now. I'll walk you through. Let's think about this going in. This is what you need. Here's a list of things you need to teach them to do. And I even give them like a timetable and just say, look, start with this first, then this, then this. This is how you do it. And we offer in the background, additional support, training, depending on what they need to help them. And it's worked really well because just a lot of agents just need that sort of help. And then, on the other side of it is, there's the human implication of just how much you're helping people like in the Philippines or other countries that have high quality workforce but don't have the opportunity.
Yeah.
We companies like mine, and there's a bunch of them out there, are helping to create a new middle class in a lot of these countries where there's extreme poverty, and you're able to find high quality employees to help agents. So you're helping two people on different sides of the world. And so at the end of that, I mean, it also just feels good.
Man, you really hit the nail on the head there, dude. the human side of the equation is really interesting when you think about the quality of life in another country
Mm-hmm.
and how much we take completely for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Roof over our head,
Yeah.
independently owned mode of transportation,
Yeah.
regular food, clean drinking water,
Mm-hmm.
access to the internet and mass media that's not run by a corrupt government. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that may or may not be accurate. I think the government's pretty corrupt, but whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there's not an
I know what you mean.
authoritarian regime
Mm-hmm.
saying you can do this, you can't do that.
Right.
There are there are so many places in the world that have people that are eager to contribute, eager
Mm-hmm.
to work hard for a good paycheck. Their
Mm-hmm.
version of a good paycheck, which is like 30% what most people would consider to be a good paycheck here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, that to me is really the interesting thing because so many companies, I think of, and obviously you with IA Blueprint, I think of Austin Moorhead with Lava Automation. I just saw he was over there in the
Mm-hmm.
Philippines with their physical office. I think of Jason Cast with Agency Intelligence, and then all these other companies that are not run by insurance agents. And it's like, how in the world do you do that at the same time you're running an agency? So for you, I'll just ask. This is obviously started off as a pet project, just
Mm-hmm.
a thing that you were doing for yourself, and then it scaled very quickly
Yes, it did.
to something way beyond just your agency. How in the world do you keep track of all of this? Because you're the principal of a
Mm-hmm.
successful retail agency. At the same time, you are also the leader of a exploding in growth IA Blueprint remote talent agency. How does
Oh
Bo keep
yeah.
track of all of that?
Yeah, when I first started, it's going to be like you said, a pet project, and it went from that to my primary thing, and but still, I'm active in both of the businesses. I'm sitting here actually in my office. I was working before this call. I was actually working on a commercial account, and it's just, a lot of it is just knowing how to delegate your time, and also having really good people, and good places that you could depend on that will, that you spend the time with to invest in them so that they can do the things you need them to do. And I got a great team on both sides. And just there's lots of things that they do all the time that I don't have to do. And a lot of my day is spent with, listening, reviewing, making decisions. And it's because I spent the time, developing my leadership team in both sides that, do all this stuff, right? Because I mean, there's a lot of stuff you have to do in both of them,
Yeah.
both those businesses, but they do it, and so it's just developing a really good team, being able to hand off things and knowing where your boundaries are. Of I really need to do these things, and I need someone else to do all these other things,
Yeah.
and I've I've been fortunate to be able to find the right people to help me to do that.
It seems like the highest and best use concept
Hmm.
is really at play there, huh?
Oh yes, sir. Yeah,
Well,
for sure.
the I forget who had the term, but the phrase "zone of genius" comes to
Hmm.
mind as like stay in your zone of genius, stay in
Yes.
the area that is uniquely Bo, where
Hmm.
you're the one who's best suited to handle that particular activity or task.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can do these things over here, but you are the one who's best for this.
Right.
And then figuring out where those boxes are and where the lines are drawn between the boxes, that's the secret sauce, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the more you can do that, the better you're going to be. The further you're going to get, because I don't know. Probably 10 years ago, I didn't have any clue how to do that really. And dude, I'd be working 100 hours a week right now if I was trying to do all of this, right now.
No, not
Then,
even possible. But
yeah.
you have higher priorities. You're a man on a mission. Family is very important to you.
Yes.
Being invested in your community
Hmm.
and faith-based and charitable causes that are important to you.
Hmm.
Uh, it's not just work. It's not just making that buck.
Oh, right, for sure.
There's something a lot more important to you.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things that are more important to me. Work is good, but work is to be an extension of who you are and the things that are important to you, right?
Yep.
And and I, a lot of those things do get answered in the work that I do, both the agency as well as also the remote staffing company. A lot of things that are important to me are answered in those, and but they also, both of those businesses give us a lot of flexibility, in
Yeah.
life, to be able to spend time with family, as well as also, of course, revenue. I mean, after the really hard years, you can really generate a lot of revenue to have a good life.
Yeah. And your definition of a really good revenue just keeps on evolving.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's in January we landed a couple of accounts that are a lot bigger than our typical accounts. And some of those individual accounts, I'm sitting here going, well, this was on an entire month of revenue for our company just a couple of years ago. And it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, this one account is where
Right.
our whole month was not
Right.
that long ago. It's like, ooh,
Right.
okay. I
Yeah.
like
There's
this.
an amazing scalability, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
There's an
all
amazing
contextual,
scalability
right?
in what we do.
What you think is amazing and best in class right now, a couple of years from now might be chump change. Who knows?
Mhm. Right.
So,
Right.
hey, I promised you around 35 minutes of
Mhm.
runtime, and we're about to that point. As
Okay.
we land the plane, is there anything we haven't talked about that you wanted to, anything you want to promote other than just shamelessly plugging IA Blueprint, which we will do in the show notes, boys and girls. If you like the sound of Beaux Pilgrim's mission and what he's doing with these remote talent staffing in your agency, check the show notes. We'll make sure to put links in there. There you go. Maybe I just did the promoting for you, Bo.
Right. Right.
But anything you want to talk about before we start to land this thing?
No, I don't think so. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've known you, James, for quite a few years. Think a lot of you, and appreciate the opportunity to be on your show. And I've always enjoyed the time that visited with you.
Yeah, yeah. You and I are cut from the same knucklehead cloth, aren't we? No,
Yeah,
fantastic, man. Well, as it's always a pleasure to talk with you, man. I
yeah,
think the
brother.
world of
Same
you.
here.
I
Thank
really
you.
admire the work that you're doing over there. I had no idea you were 13 years older than me, you old dog. I swear, man. Come on now. It really is the not the years, it's the mileage. And the
I don't know. I
mileage that
got
you
more
put on
mileage.
your legs, you got a whole
Yeah, I
lot of
got more mileage on
miles on
me.
those legs, man. Yeah. No, but hey, anyways, it has been a real pleasure. Thank you for giving some of your valuable time to our listening audience. Folks, check him out. He is very easy to find. Bo, what's your favorite social platforms? Is it Facebook or LinkedIn or something else?
Honestly, I spend most of my time, or waste most of my social media time, on Instagram, but Facebook's probably the easiest place to find me.
Okay. Yeah, reach out to him. He's in the Agency Freedom Facebook group, lurking.
Yes.
Doesn't really comment or anything. I don't know what to do with that group, honestly, man. It's. I got to figure out what the plan is there.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm done rambling. This has been another episode of the Agency Freedom Podcast, boys and girls. Check us out on YouTube, and please drop us a review if you like what you hear. And that's all for now. We'll see you next time. Take
All right.
care.
Bye.